I'm Andrew Sherman. I'm a Texas transplant who has always been in pursuit of art as a career. I've played in bands, pursued an acting career in Hollywood, but I found it behind the lens of a camera here in Dallas, Texas. I was born in New York, I've lived in Chicago, Los Angeles, Austin, but I love Dallas. There's a magical artistic scene in Dallas that mostly goes unnoticed to the outside world. This podcast is focused on what makes it so special and the people who make it thrive artistically. If you don't live here, and even if you do, you might not have heard of them. This is the Dallas Famous Podcast. So who you gonna be? Who you gonna be when you're all? This week on the Dallas Famous Podcast, it's Frank Campagna, artist, gallery owner, and driving force behind Dallas's creative scene. Frank has helped shape Deep Ellum through Kettle Art and his iconic murals. His work and influence stretch across the city, connecting punk rock roots, legendary collaborations, and decades of community building. This conversation dives into art, culture, and the evolution of a neighborhood he's helped redefine. I know you're going to love this chat with the godfather of Deep Ellum. Here it is. The Dallas Famous Podcast is supported by the Mullen & Mullen Music Project. The Music Project was created by Mullen & Mullen Injury Law Firm to champion the independent music scene in North Texas. Hello and welcome back to Dallas Famous Podcast. We're at the Deep Ellum Community Center as always, and I've got a very special guest today, Frank Campagna, who is Kettle Art, a muralist, artist, and like I was saying in our first take, you kind of were at least a part of the punk rock scene here. But you were saying you weren't born here. You got here when you were kind of young.
I had just gotten out of high school when my family moved here, and the problem I had with Dallas or going to the rock clubs, whatever, is all cover bands. You know, I mean, I was never a huge fan of Foghat or the Doobie Brothers or that kind of stuff. You know, the Eagles even was like yawn, bore me to death. Mm-hmm. I was really into the glam movement when that was happening in the early 70s, and saw the Ramones in a place that was like 2,500, maybe 3,000 square feet, you know, with maybe 50 other people in the room, that kind of thing. And so I was all into that. But in Dallas, all you had was all these crummy cover bands, and I couldn't stand it. So I would go to like jazz clubs and folk music clubs, Poor David's before it was Poor David's. It was called Beau's Place over in Oak Lawn, and places where I was unfamiliar with the music, so if they were doing cover songs, it didn't irritate the crap out of me.
Right. Yeah, it is a weird thing. Like, before I moved here, everyone was talking about how it's just cover bands, that's it, which is not true, but it's like a big part of it, for sure.
Then there was this band called the Nerve Breakers that popped up on my radar, and I actually came down here in like 78, I think it was, because they were playing a now long gone building, but it's a place called the Manhattan Clearinghouse over by Expo in Maine. And they were playing a party there, and they were punk rock, and they opened for the Sex Pistols, and they opened for the Ramones, and they opened for the Clash, and they, you know, the Police and that kind of stuff. So, wow, real Dallas, Texas punk rock, and they're still to this day an amazing band. If you ever have a chance, check them out. But the punk rock scene really started gaining traction in 79 when DJs opened up at the corner of Orem and Greenville Avenue, 2000 Greenville Avenue. And it was the first punk rock club, and wow, original music, and it became friends with everybody. And by 1982 or so, I had an opportunity to open an art studio down here. And I had 4,500 square feet at $450 a month.
Wow.
Had my friends' bands play on the weekends, and the Butthole Surfers would show up pretty much every weekend for the first 6 weeks, 2 months or whatever. And Frank, who's playing tonight, can we play too? And I'm like, yeah, sure, okay, knock yourselves out. Huh. And within 3 or 4 months or whatever, the Dead Kennedys got in touch with me and had them with MDC and the Surfers and Stickmen with Ray Guns and Hugh Beaumont Experience, and that was in August of 82, and ended up really breaking the cherry on live music down here.
Huh.
Wow. At the time, the only stuff that was really happening was these weird-ass cowboys that we'd see across the street, and they were all going to Sons of Herman Hall on Saturday nights, and it's like, where are all them cowboys going, you know?
Right.
But outside of that, there's nothing down here.
Okay.
I mean, I had my transmission fixed down here, my radiator fixed down here, that kind of stuff, but for the most part, there wasn't much of anything.
Wow, that's so wild. Okay. This is like a different picture than I've gotten from anybody else so far on the show. So there was like there was original punk music coming out of Dallas?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
There's a a record that came out, and I guess that was around 1979, 1980 or so. It's called ESR, Are We Too Late for the Trend? And it had the Telephones and Nerve Breakers and the Scuds and a bunch of other bands you never heard of, but it was a really excellent compilation album of Texas punk rock.
Right, right. You never played, though. You were just a fan.
I was a fan. I wanted to do record covers and psychedelic posters and stuff in the 60s, and so I ended up doing flyers and that type of stuff down here. I started doing that around 79, 1980 or so, and ended up doing flyers for like some of the biggest promoters in town, and so I got free access to all the shows I wanted to go to, and I'd get like $35 to design a flyer from 2 different promoters each, and then I get another $35 each to distribute flyers, which meant I got to go to all the record stores and all the cool boutiques and that kind of stuff and hand out tickets and hang posters, and it was a really great way to meet Dallas and get to know everybody in Dallas.
Yeah. Is that, I mean, were you trained as an artist? Was it something you were thinking of doing before that?
In high school, I wasn't sure if I was going to be an artist or musician. I studied an awful lot about music, and some friend of mine won the Battle of the Bands in Philadelphia, which got them a recording contract with Swan Song Records. And it was Led Zeppelin owned the label.
Right.
They were the first band on that label. Bad Company was the first act they signed. Then my friend's band, Rain, like King Rains, got signed, and they went up to Electric Lady Studios in New York City, and their singer decided to go out and party too much the day before pre-production and showed up late, and that canceled the contract. And, it was a light bulb moment to me, like, oh, shit, somebody can ruin my entire career other than myself. I think I am just going to become a visual artist instead, where if anybody's going to screw me over, it's going to be me and nobody but me.
Interesting. So, so your desire to do art was like out of music, essentially.
I had both. I went to all the museums when I was a kid and stuff. And
Okay.
I remember seeing like the Trenton Museum of Art when I was like 11, 12 years old, and seeing, it was like kind of like the Dallas Contemporary is now, where they had Andy Warhol and Jasper Johns and Robert Rauschenberg and all these guys. And I was like, yeah, this is cool. I remember being much younger than that, being pressed up against the velvet ropes when they had the Van Gogh exhibit tour through, town. And it was raining outside, and it was all humid, and the rain was trickling down on the inside of the windows because the moisture was so heavy and the humidity. And I was just like, wow, this is all for a dead guy,
Right.
I want to do that when I grow up,
Right. That's crazy. So,
another really big light bulb moment for me was when I was like 7 or something, and going to the Thanksgiving Day parade, and all of a sudden this car with, convertible with 4 or 5 guys in it, they're all waving and girls are screaming, and I'm pressed up against the barricade again, and they're all screaming, and I'm like, who's that? Oh, that's Frankie Valli in the Four Seasons. So I was like, that's a good job if you can get it.
Right.
Wonder how you do that for a living,
Right. So, your motivation was in the right place, I think.
Inspired by pop culture.
Yeah. Excellent. So, when you made that kind of realization, then was that like kind of like, I'm just going to be an artist now, or were you kind of just like that was dabbling in with other things?
I didn't think anybody take me seriously as a visual artist until I was like 35, and here I was 20 years old, running around and doing stuff, so I never really got too serious about it. Doing flyers and that. Now it's cool. Now it's like, wow, retrospect, that's really cool. I did flyers for you name it basically back in the day, and, of course, going to all the shows for free and having all access, like, it's a Tuesday night. I wonder what's going on. Oh, this guy Miles Davis is playing. I wonder if he's worth a shit. I'll go check it out, And, oh, very good, Or
Right.
Hanging out with Joey Ramone before they had 2 sold-out shows one night. And I'm hanging out with Joey, and we're just walking around, and he decides he wants to walk outside and talk to people in line. And we come walking back into the club, and the head of security's like, Frank, you can come in. This guy, I don't know who he is. I'm like, dude, who's playing tonight? He says, Ramones. I say, this is Joey. Joey Ramone. Oh, sorry, Mr. Ramone, you know.
Mr. Ramone, even back then. That's funny. That is cool.
So some funny experiences.
Yeah, wow. I mean, God, it's like I can't even imagine the acts that you must have been seeing back then. I mean,
Well, new wave, that's what they called it, you know, is just soften up the punk rock image thanks to the Sex Pistols, making everything all goofy. But the new wave scene, the promoters didn't know what to do with it, you know. They knew hot upcoming act, don't know what to do with it. And they'd call me a lot of the times, like, Frank, have you ever heard of Billy Idol? Yes, book him. You know, have you ever heard of Peter Tosh? You know, reggae guy. You know,
Yeah.
But, yeah, he opened for the Stones. I got stoned with him. You know, yeah, book him. You know, to their regret, you know, that night 1,200 people were packed in the room, and the place is high as a kite because everybody and their mother was smoking weed. But nonetheless, you know, I mean, a lot of instances like that happened because I knew what was going on with modern music. And I like one of the guys I worked for, he helped manage ZZ Top and Journey, you know, and helped book them like in a 5-state area and that type of thing. And, you know, I hated those bands.
Yeah.
You know, now in retrospect, I'm like, you know, ZZ Top was kind of cool. And thanks to Adam Sandler movies, it's like, oh, you know, that Journey song, it's okay now. But
I'm still not a fan of Journey, but that's a whole other conversation.
But, yeah, I mean, I had my finger on the pulse of what was going on, you know, on a national level or international level, whereas they were more listening to the Zoo or Q102, and the stuff they programmed would never play new wave, really.
Right.
So
Is there like a radio station that popped up for that or not really?
eventually, yeah, George Gilmark got the edge going.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
And before that, he had the Rock and Roll Alternative Show on Sunday nights in Dallas on KZEW. So,
When you decided to do Kettle Art, was that did you say that opened in '82, or did you have another spot before that?
no, that was called Studio D.
Okay.
And I had like Husker Du. They played 3 times in like 4 weeks.
Oh, wow.
They kept calling me on the road, Frank. Our gig got canceled. Can we come play your place again? I'm like, I can't give you a guarantee, but sure, come on, you know, that kind of thing. The Misfits, the original Misfits performed, and Glenn Danzig was giving me shit before they went on stage. Why are we playing dumps like this? We should be playing stadiums. I said, because there's 250 people in the other room waiting for you to go on, and you look absolutely stupid in a stadium with 250 people.
Right, yeah. My wife loves him, but I'm not a fan of that either. But that's a whole other story. My tastes are limited apparently. So, but whatever. Okay, so you that was a venue. That wasn't an art studio.
It was my art studio, but it was for me painting and, you know, making props and, you know, things for nightclubs. I ended up doing a lot of nightclubs and restaurants, like, you know, finish outs and murals and that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Working for these venues a lot of the time, it really helped me learn a lot because, you know, we need a 6-foot by 30-foot copy of our logo to be cut into shag carpeting for acoustic's sake. I'm like, okay. So I'd figure out how to do it, you know,
Right.
that kind of thing. Just
Is that how you got into the murals?
no, I was already doing murals.
Okay. Well, how did you get into murals in the first place?
Initially, it was, I don't know. You know, I mean, I did one in my attic when I was a kid.
So
The Psychedelic Shack is what it was called.
nice.
It's kind of my whole life's kind of been an extension of just creating things and inviting people over and having fun.
Right. Yeah, just because for me, I'm not an artist at all, and so the thought of like scaling up just seems difficult. Like, is it just the same thing, only bigger, or?
It's a lot easier, actually,
Okay.
because the details are so large.
Ah.
You don't have to pay attention. Like I did illustration for a while, and I actually got hired to be an illustrator at one point, starting at the bottom level of an illustration studio. And after about 3-4 days, okay, Frank, you got to do this ad for Sears, I think it was, President's Day sale. So we want you to take Mount Rushmore, illustrate that, and put party hats on it for President's Day. And so I did that, and then I just, that's it, I'm out, you know?
You're like, no.
This is corny.
Okay, well, so, I mean, you started to do the murals. Was that something that was that like, because now, like, Deep Ellum is known for murals, but at the time, I'm guessing that wasn't really the case, or?
No, I did my first mural down here in '89,
Okay.
and Actually, yeah, it was right over here where Gypsy was, and there was a place called Moon Underwater that opened there at one point. And when they went out of business, and Gypsy, the guys from Trees and Green Room, decided they were going to open Gypsy there and make use of all the remodeling that the previous place had done. I went in and I talked to Brantwood, and I just said, dude, the first thing I would do if I was you was get rid of that god-awful mural that I did back in '89. This is like in '94 or something, '96, I don't know. But he said, what do you got in mind? And I said, let's do giant flyers. So I ended up doing close to 1,000 murals on the side of Gypsy, for all the different upcoming shows.
Oh, like it kept changing?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had 5 different panels, and after a while, it just got to the point where it's like I'd drop off my kids at school and pick up a copy of the Observer. Oh, so-and-so's coming in, and find some reference material and paint it, and drop them off at school, paint the mural, be finished with the mural, pick them up from school.
Wow.
They were like 9 by 12 foot each. They weren't that big, so.
Right. Well, I guess you get into a routine with it, but still. Yeah. Huh. Is there photos of those out? Or?
Quite a few of them, yeah.
Okay. I got to look those up. I wasn't aware of that one. My notes say that you're one of the first visual artists to make Deep Ellum a cultural landmark.
Yeah, I did a lot of stuff myself. Greg Contestable goes by Ozone. He's still around. Brad Smith, he's over in Fort Worth. He still does a lot. Clay Austin, I don't know what he's doing these days, but there were several of us. Mm-hmm. Jeff Sweeney had a muralist competition at one point at Clearview, and that was about the same time that Nirvana, I remember when we were working on that, Nirvana played at Trees, so I guess that was, 91 or so. Mm-hmm. And I was one of the artists there. I came in second place. Their artist came in first. Go figure.
Right.
But, yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Cool. When did you come up with the idea for Kettle Art?
I didn't really come up with the idea. My a previous landlord, I lived over in the space where Dots is now, and Don Cass was my landlord. And after there was an incident at Gypsy, which caused Gypsy to close down, but their insurance would not cover it, so that cost them Trees, Green Room, Jeroboam, and Umlaut, and I forget what else. They had a whole slew of clubs and restaurants going on at the time, and the insurance company wouldn't protect them over this one lawsuit, so the entire Entertainment Collaborative collapsed, and that was all those venues and more, I'm sure. But Don Cass came to me and said, Frank, the neighborhood's in the gutter, what do we do? And I said, easy, let's go back to the roots. And he at one point was my landlord when I was living over in the Dot space, and I got behind on my rent, and I offered him different solutions on how I can make it up to him. And at one point he asked me to do a mural, and I said, how much do I owe you? And I said, don't worry about it, you covered me. And so when he came to me in 2005, about the neighborhood being in the gutter, I just said, easy, back to the roots. He said, any of my spaces you'd like to work with, I'll give you to my cost. And I said, yeah, this one's fine. I can pack this any day of the week. And that's how Kettle started.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
I didn't realize that 20 years ago it would be like a retirement plan for me where like I don't have to climb ladders like I used to. Instead, I can, have drinks and talk to people now.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of artists that can thank you for having their first showings, and there's been galleries, and there's a lot. I mean, once you had it going, was there a plan, or just kind of like things would just happen, or?
To this day, I still have a 30-day move-out notification.
Okay.
But it'll be 20 years in a couple, 2-3 weeks. So obviously we're doing something right.
Yeah.
My wife got the Deep Ellum Wine Walk going like 11 years ago now, and so we do what we can. Yeah, we do pay rent, but we also do whatever we can to contribute to the neighborhood. I've managed, because of my rock and roll background and promotional backgrounds for various nightclubs and that type of stuff, I know how to promote things, and that comes in invaluable when it comes down to getting positive press for the neighborhood, positive media attention. That's priceless.
Yeah.
Property owners don't have to pay for it. We just do what we do.
Yeah, you just, jumping way ahead, but you just had to do a Lipa show. How did that come about?
They called us.
Yeah. Well, they knew who you were, though, from their research, right?
Somehow, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they approached us, and I told my wife, I said, "You handle this one. You know, you're really good at doing events now at this point, so you got this." And she got a little nervous a couple of times. I'm like, "Babe, you're doing great. Don't worry about it. You know." So the check's a minute late. Okay, no worries. We're talking about, you know, a PR team out of L.A. and they got to run it past the chain of command and all that. And it's all good, and it worked.
Right, right. And that was pretty successful, I guess.
Yeah. I think the icing on the cake when it was all said and done, and we managed to get tickets, like a dozen tickets to the second show,
Oh, nice.
and brought everybody that helped us out along with that. But we were kicking back a couple of days after saying, "Oh, thank God that's over," you know. And then Paula gets an email from Mr. Lipa, Dua's dad, who's her manager, just saying, "Thank you so much, Paula. You know, we love Deep Ellum, and we really appreciate all that you've done for the, you know, us and working with us, and looking forward to working with you again."
Right,
So,
right.
who knows?
That's cool, though. I mean, was that the biggest, like, pop star? Is there other, like, guest artists that have come through?
I don't know. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, Jason Janik did a really beautiful tribute to the old 97s about 5 years ago. And they all came out, you know, in attendance, and that was a really fun show. We had a couple of guys from BTS drop in one night and bought some artwork, and unknown artist at the time, but he just happened to be in the house, and you know, these couple of Asian guys come in with a TV crew and bodyguards and all that, and I'm like, "So who is this?" You know, talking to the bodyguard, he spoke English, and "Oh, it's BTS." "Oh, cool, I heard of them. They're playing over in Fort Worth." "Yeah," and they picked up a couple of his V, that's his name, V, like Veronica, like, but yeah, V picked up a couple of paintings and asked how much it would cost to ship them over there, and the artist was like, "Oh, $100. I'm like, "Dude, we're talking South Korea here. It's at least $300. So
Yeah.
we ended up working the deal and charging them $300 to ship it, and found out it was more like $1,200 to ship it. But one of our other artists, fortunately, was from South Korea originally, and she worked for American Airlines, and it's just like, "Minji, tell you what, I'll give you $300. You carry these onto your plane and ship them when you're in South Korea." She's okay.
That's random. That worked out.
But that visit was so huge that, like when D Magazine did a story on it, their website crashed 3 times.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's the biggest story in the history of D Magazine.
Really?
Yeah, to this day.
That's saying something. Wow. Yeah, I just talked to Justin Lyons, and he was in Blackpink. So, like, there's something about Dallas and K-pop that there's some kind of massive fascination here. But I didn't realize it was that big.
I mean, I've never really been fazed by meeting anybody. You know, I think, you know, you're just as human as me. You can take you, me, and the Pope and stand, you know, President of the United States, and stand in the middle of Central Expressway and get hit by a Mack truck. Who's going to survive? Nobody.
Right.
That's a great equalizer there. It's called life.
Yeah.
You know?
Indeed.
So
Indeed.
get over yourself. Don't be all cocky. Just have fun.
Yeah. I mean, when you got to Deep Ellum, were you like how long before you started to connect to the lineage of this neighborhood and what it was originally?
It took a while, to be honest with you. You know, I had heard the name Deep Ellum. Actually, I had a one-man show here a couple of doors down in 1981 at a place called the Deep Ellum Gallery. And I was like, "What the hell is that? That's a stupid name," you know. But eventually the name came back, or the term came back, and, you know, it's cool.
It was like not something people
It was
talked
just
about.
East
for a while?
Dallas.
Oh, okay.
You know? I mean, I fell in love with the neighborhood because it reminded me where I grew up outside of Philadelphia. It's like, oh, light industrial, you know, very cool old buildings, not like North Dallas where my mom and dad lived, or, you know, everything's generic.
Right.
And so I was like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah.
And I spent a lot of time going back and forth between here and Philadelphia and Chicago and New York City, just hitchhiking and having fun and visiting my friends and whatnot. And, you know, you run around in New York City in the late 70s and you run into a friend and she happens to be friends with a famous designer, and you go into Peppermint Lounge and there's Robert Gordon playing, or, you know, we go down to the Pyramid Room and I'm like, wow, this is the same size as my art studio. This is cool. I can do that, you know?
Right, right.
So back in the day before there was the internet, you get tipped off on a lot of things that were happening there. that wouldn't reach Dallas for 6 months to a year and a half sometimes. So.
Yeah. It just seems like, I mean, like, it feels like this even still to this day to a degree that you could kind of do things in Dallas that have already been done time and time again in other places, and it's kind of fresh and new here, you know? That's the way I perceive it.
The good thing about Dallas is you realize that actually we have really wonderful things to export too. And that's why I have Kettle Art Galleries, to encourage artists to stick around as opposed to moving to New York or Los Angeles. I really admire people like Jim Heath, Reverend Horton Heath. You know, he stayed in Dallas. You know, what's his name? The guitar player from the old '97s, Ken.
Yep.
You know, I mean, he stayed in Dallas. Erykah Badu stayed in Dallas. I've known so many people that they're going off to launch their dreams in New York or L.A. in 6 months or a year, sometimes longer, but for the most part, they come back with their tail between their legs and. Mm-hmm. Well, I just pissed away, X amount of dollars in hope and dreams.
Yep. I lived in LA for a long time, and I came here and was like, oh, this is it. Like, this is so much more relaxed.
It's easy.
Yeah. But still, the amount of musical talent and artistic talent, it rivals the rest of them. It still blows me away that people aren't aware of it, but I guess it makes it easier for us to maneuver that way, Well,
we did a couple shows in New York. At one point when we first started Kettle, it was my former business partner's idea. And I'd known some artists that lived up there that had moved from Dallas to there. And there's like, it's just as much talent in Dallas as there is in New York. The only problem is there's 10 times more artists up there.
Right. Same thing with the musicians. I mean, even in Austin, I just felt like it's a bunch of people moving from somewhere else to go to Austin to like say they're from Austin. And it's too small,
Yeah, that brings me back to like 85, 86 or whatever, when I was booking bands and I was living down at the Twilight Room at the time. And it got to the point where I'd be talking to New York or Los Angeles booking agents and like, okay, I'm going to offer you Johnny Thunders. Excellent. I'm a huge New York Dolls fan. I loved his solo work. What do you want for him? $2,000. Hold on, let me talk to Lewis down in Austin. Yeah. I'm thinking about it, too. I think it's too much. Yeah, me too. Let's talk to Butler down in Houston. Yeah, he thinks it's too much. Tell you what, we'll give you $1,200 a night, and we'll give you 3 nights in a row, So we'd rig the prices across the state.
Right.
And when I got out in June of 86, the end of June in 86, it was pretty much the end of the whole DIY movement in a way. I had Sonic Youth play that night, the very last show that I booked. And it was a $1,200 guarantee, and I lost $400 that night because they were so not popular at the time.
Yeah.
Lewis started South by Southwest within a year, and Frank, you're back to doing artwork, right? And I said, yeah. Can you do backdrops for me for South by? So I ended up doing backdrops for South by Southwest for years. Butler down in Houston, he ended up managing the Toadies and the Surfers. So.
Oh wow! Okay.
It was fun that we all got out at the same time and ended up doing. Our careers forward,
right?
In an artistic, cultural vein, nonetheless.
Yeah. So I mean, but it ended because
Mine ended because I had a kid on the way.
Right.
I didn't need to be, living in a punk rock warehouse and junkies and homeless people all around, skinheads and whatnot.
Sure.
It's not a very good environment to bring a kid into.
Right. No, I mean that's definitely not.
I had to grow up for 2 years.
Just for 2 years.
Just enough to have 2 kids.
Right. And then, I mean, where do you see it now? Like, where do you see the art scene down here or Dallas now these days?
I have a difficult time answering that question because I'm not really too familiar with either one of them at this point. Mm-hmm. I'm worried about what I've got going on. Mm-hmm. That's pretty much what I do. I went to RO2 last week to see a book release that Keiko Press had for a book that an artist they had over there. And I've known those guys for 15 years now, and it was the first time I went over to their latest location. It was really beautiful, and I was very impressed. But, it's a win-lose situation when like when you're a kid and you're looking for something to do, it's like, You can spend all night looking for something to do and not find anything, or you can just create something to do yourself, and then you don't have to worry about paying a cover charge or buying beers or whatever, you know.
Sure.
And so that's always been my thing, is just make stuff happen. But at the same time, I miss out on, you know, friends that are doing something else somewhere else, unless it's later on in the evening. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, but you did discover the key to life, which is getting into shows for free.
yeah, I mean, that was very important to me. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
especially as a young man, taking a girl on a date and walk up to the door. I remember Kevin Sorbo, future Hercules,
Huh.
was the doorman at one place, and you know, walk in, shake his hand. Hey, Kevin. Hey, Frank. What's up? Yeah, me and my girl here. Okay, yeah, come on in. Go to the bar. Hey, Frank. What's up? You know, how much owe you? Don't worry about it. You know, tip heavily. Everybody's good. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I don't know if
it's a good way to impress a person. You know.
Sure, sure. I mean, I guess it's still kind of like that down here, but at what point did you start getting referred to as the godfather of Deep Ellum? How did that start?
That's a tough one there. I think it goes nicely with the last name. You know, I got put in a position several times back when I was running Circle A Twilight Room, and the cops kept raiding us and slamming people up against the wall and really giving us a hard time. And at one night, a friend of mine got really pissed off at the cops and threw a rock and busted one of their windows. And then they were really on us, like, you know, stink on shit or whatever,
Yeah.
white on rice or whatever. And it was really bad. And they really, you know, they'd block the front door with their patrol car up on the sidewalk and tell everybody to go inside. But they couldn't go inside because the patrol car is blocking the damn entrance. But I'd be out there talking to the head cop, and they'd have like 20 people up against the wall. And the cop would walk by and point at each one. I would, no. Yeah, that guy's a pain in the ass. Okay, no. Yeah, get rid of him. You know, just put me in very strange positions. And between that and the skinhead broke into a girl's car one night, and she came up to me crying, and you know, somebody broke in my car and stole my purse. I grabbed one of the skinheads and said, hey, who did this? And they found the guy that did it, and I said, get the purse back now. Yes, sir, I'm sorry. You know, brought the purse back and had him apologize profusely.
Wow.
So
Okay.
it's just it's weird to be in that position, but it's nice.
Yeah.
You know, I don't exercise it or expect to flex any of that kind of crap if I don't need to. It's kind of lame. It's kind of like, you know, going to a door and you don't know a door person. Don't you know who I am? I mean,
Yeah.
you don't do that shit. You know, you
Yeah.
just roll with whatever you're dealt. But well, you know, when you're put in a position like that, you know, you just got to be true to yourself and honest with the circumstances.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, I mean, how do you see how things are going right now in Deep Ellum?
I think we're on the upswing. I think we finally have addressed a lot of the problems. And, yeah, it looks really positive.
Yeah. I mean, if they could stop this construction, maybe.
Yeah, that's the next thing. It's always something.
Right.
I mean, I saw this neighborhood go from empty pawn shops where you'd walk by, like here on the corner where Velvet Taco is. That was a pawn shop at one time. It's like, oh, it's got a 3-string guitar, a fire extinguisher, and one boot in the window. Yeah. Like, why would anybody even want to go in there? You know?
That is random. That reminds me of like New York City, like the fronts, where like it'd be like they'd be selling weed, but it would be like a peanut shop, and you go and you buy a bag of stale peanuts, and there's just it sounds similar to that. But
I can remember getting approached by people asking me if I'd like to launder money. And that was no, I'm not my business. And then another developer came to me at one point, and she was really sweet. She tried like hell to swoon me into working for her. This is back in the early 80s, and she owns property over in Uptown. And I'll give you a place for rent-free for a year and $100,000 to do something and make things happen in the Uptown neighborhood. I'm like, lady, I can't trust myself with $5 after a successful weekend.
But I mean, at that time, was Uptown kind of like upper crust-ish, or was it?
No, it was like a neighborhood.
So she's just trying to
Make it what it is now.
Right.
Yeah.
I gotcha. Interesting. So do you think you'll leave Deep Ellum ever? You think this is for the...
When I was a young artist, and this is in the early 90s when I decided to really take painting seriously, and I went to the trouble of putting together promotional packages, and they cost me like $20 each for annotated slides and, letters, introductory letters, and resumes, and all kinds of expensive bullshit, plus a self-addressed stamped envelope. And I sent out 20 packages, and I got like 3 rejections back. And in a way, that was kind of a blessing in the fact that having been here for so long, I've got art all over the planet now because people have come through and purchased my art, or now in this case now, people from Kettle, my artists, the artists I work with, they buy it, and like Friday night we had some girls in from Poland. They picked up, just a print, but still, it's cool. They know where they got it. So as opposed to trying to be, recognized where nobody knows who you are, nobody cares anyway, to be honest with you. It's better in a reverse way just to stay put and be consistent and allow the world to come to you.
Yeah. That makes me question, so you were getting hired to do all these projects. Were you also independently just creating your own art?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing was just I just didn't want to get a real job.
Tell me about it.
So I worked like 2.5 years between kids being born, and that was it. Before that, I worked part-time at Peaches Records over Christmas time, a couple of years, and a few days as an illustrator before I got sick of that, and a couple of days at a construction company, and this is boring. Yeah,
right.
I mean, not that I was independently wealthy, but it's better than jumping in dumpsters and trying to recycle cans, which I tried as well. Anything. The thing that really turned things around for me, I guess, was pawn shops. And I had a really nice ring that I would bring in, and I always promised myself I'd get that ring back. And so I'd go get like $15 for the ring, just enough to type up a letter of intention of publishing a magazine or doing a something or other. I don't know what the hell, but usually it was magazines at that point. And typing it up and having copies made, and then enough gas money to run around and find people to advertise with me. And then as soon as I got enough, then I'd go get my ring back. And I did that over and over and over again. Just, you need gas money.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need food. So just barely enough, but enough to keep the ball rolling.
Right. Was there a favorite time you had down here?
No, not really. I mean, they're all different.
Yeah.
I've heard people bitch about Deep Ellum since like 86 or so. They're like, oh, it's all sold out. It's all taken over by yuppies and stuff like that. I'm like, dude, it's called evolution.
Yeah.
You got to grow up. You got to roll with it, or consider yourself a dinosaur and go extinct. It's your call.
Sure.
Your life. You make up your mind. I prefer to roll with it. And as an artist, when you're your own boss, basically, you can't necessarily say you can't control the outcome, but you can guide your career to where you want to go, and keep your fingers crossed and give it your best effort to make it happen.
Right.
So that's pretty much what I do. And
cool.
The realms of art that I play in are, all kinds of things, and I've really enjoyed all of them and love all the people, and why not, right?
Yeah. What's next? What do you have left on your card?
Right now, back in January, a couple of people came to me from Keiko Press, and they were referred to us wanting to do a book. I'm not much of a reader outside of articles and things on my phone. I mean, I think the last book I read from cover to cover was Keith Richards' Life. It came out in 2010 or something. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, okay, well, bring me copies of your previous publications. Let's see what you've done. And I looked at it and I just picked it up. And embossed covered. Okay, what do we need to do?
Judging a book by the cover.
Exactly. And since then, I've become familiar with a lot of their other outputs that they've come up with, and I'm very impressed. And this is by far their largest endeavor as far as publishing. And there are like 40 different contributors to this book giving testimonials. And I've tried like hell not to meet, just like with the gallery, I tried to make it not about me. I prefer to be behind the desk instead of, in the front, I guess you'd say, or whatever. Even though I'm the one who's rolling the dice and covering the bills and all the responsibilities, still, I don't want to be the lead singer. I'd much rather be the guy that, make sure they get to the next gig on time.
Right.
It's a much better position to be in.
Yeah.
But 40 contributors, including at least 20 artists. I started reading some of the testimonials, checking for accuracy more than anything and misspellings. And after a while, I was just like, this is too fluffy. Tell you what, let me refer you to some people that don't like me. Like, no, we can't do that. That's not what we want. I said, yeah, there's a few people out there that really hate me. I'd really appreciate it if we could mix it up and make it more interesting. And they said, well, how about people that are our artists? And I said, okay. So we got like Valletta Lil, who started the Dallas Arts District. She contributed. And Adam Medrano, who was mayor pro tem and this councilman in this area. And Robert Wolanski and Lauren Smart, who's now a professor out in California, but she was a cultural writer for The Observer, and Merritt Martin, who writes for The Observer to this day, and quite a few people that are, writers, and Ann Bothwell, from KERA, KXT, and Jerome Weeks, who just recently retired, but, people that I've worked with through the years to also throw their 2 cents in. So it should be a really good read. I haven't read the thing yet.
Cool. When is it coming out,
It will be out. It starts shipping they're sending it to press this week.
Oh, cool.
I had to do some clarifications this morning, just the final touch-ups. They'll have it back in shipping by the December 9th. We're having the release party on the 13th, Saturday the 13th of December, I believe it is. And hopefully all the artists will be there, and anybody who wants to come down and get a lot of autographs or, personalized copies, that's the place to do it.
Right.
In advance, I know they're doing an accompanying book of sorts, like a small book. They asked me to name my top 20 favorite things in the history of Kettle. So that took forever because I couldn't come up with anything. Then I came up with like 8. Then all of a sudden I came up with like 25, and then I had to crush some categories down, squeeze them together, and that type of stuff. And so it ended up being 21, but it's a little extra add-on, and there should be. I'm looking forward to it. It should be a very beautiful product.
Excellent. Excellent. That's cool. Right on. We'll look for that.
Pre-sales are happening now.
Great. Well, we'll put a link in for people that are interested in that. Frank, thanks so much for coming over and talking to us, and we'll definitely keep up on all the stuff that's going on with you. Yeah.
Move forward. Keep busy. If you feel like it's getting you down or whatever, just realize it's like life. It's like swimming. You just swim through all the stuff you got to go through, and it's okay. Just do the best you can and enjoy it. I don't know. I did an interview earlier today, and I just said basically, you are the writer of your own script of your own movie, which is called Your Life. So you want to have a good story, enjoy it. Yeah. Make it happen.
Yep, absolutely. All right, well, thanks for that.
Sure thing.
I'd like to thank Frank Campagna for joining us today. You can check out his stuff in the links. Thank you to the Deep Ellum Community Center for letting us record here. Theme song Unstoppable by Celine Narala, and the outro is The Place to Be by Electric Ants. Thanks again to the Mullen & Mullen Music Project for their support. Like, subscribe, and share the podcast, and we'll see you next week.